Last week, we learned about the importance of purpose and not thinking too much about how you're doing, but thinking about what you're doing. You know what we're saying? Focusing on the mission. To be happier is if you forget about yourself a little bit and think more about what you're needed for, as opposed to what I need, you're a happier person. God gave us purpose. And we talked about tonight's my wife's birthday. And your birthday, as we said last week, was all about God is saying, you're important, you're needed. And we said that when you focus on what you need to do and you forget about yourself, you just think about your mission, you'll live a happier life. And we talked about that idea of focusing on the mission. But the question is, what is the mission? Today's question. All right, if God created me, He put me on this world, and it's obvious that I have a specific mission that He gave me. And the real question we have is, what is my specific mission? If purpose and my mission is going to make me happier, then it's important to know what that is. What is my specific mission? And that's really what we're trying to do today. It's not enough to just generally know why we're here. We need to specifically, good evening. It's important to specifically know why I'm here. What is my job? You know what you're here for, you'll live a happier life. So today you're going to take a Torah personality test, kind of. You know, a lot of people like taking personality tests when they're about to embark on a career, when they're trying to find a spouse, try to figure out, who am I? What's my personality? Taking up a major, whatever it may be. What's my personality? So instead of looking elsewhere, we're going to look in the Torah. What does the Torah say about this? And how, once we understand ourselves better, we'll understand specifically more about our specific mission. Is everyone with me? Anyone? Short answer? Oh, because Ken just spoke, Ken is my joke manager. We're going to tell a joke. So there was a guy, he was submitting his resume. Let's do a blessing together on the fruit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri ha'etz. For the fruit. You have one over here? Okay. And then the mizonot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei mizonot. That's for the cookies. And shahakol for the drink. Say the drink on the water. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam shahakol niyah b'dvarei. The cookies and the fruit, the tea. Thank you to Leah. So he had a resume, and the resume, unfortunately, was missing 3 years of his life were not in the resume. So the employer said, what were you doing those 3 years? So he says, I was at Yale those 3 years. He says, you got the job. This guy's at Yale for 3 years, he's got the job. After he said to him, once he gave him the job, he says, thank you for the job. That was it. That's the joke.
Thank you for, you have to think about that one to get it.
Yeah, I really had to think about it.
Thank you for the job. Okay, everyone got the joke? Okay, get it, you didn't get it. However, we're going to learn now about a situation where sometimes souls get lost and they don't end up doing what they're supposed to do. I'm going to start with text number 1. Open up your student books, page 85. A wealthy businessman and his coachman arrived in a city Friday afternoon. The rich man was settled at the best Western hotel. No, not at the best hotel in town, and the coachman went off to his humble lodgings. Both washed and dressed for Shabbat, and then set out for the synagogue for the evening prayers. On his way to shul, the businessman came across a large wagon that had swerved off the road and got stuck in a ditch. Rushing to help a fellow in need, the businessman climbed down into the ditch and began pushing and pulling at the wagon together with its hapless driver. But for all his finesse at handling the most challenging business deals, this guy was not very good. When it came to extracting a wagon and a team of horses from a muddy ditch, our businessman was hopelessly out of his depth. After struggling for an hour in knee-deep mud, he succeeded only in ruining his best suit of Shabbat clothes, amassing a most impressive collection of cuts and bruises, and getting the wagon even more impossibly embedded in the mud. Finally, he dragged his limping body to the synagogue, arriving a scant minute before the start of Shabbat. Meanwhile, the coachman arrived early to the shul, to the synagogue, and sat down to recite a few chapters of Psalms. At the synagogue, he found a group of wandering paupers, and being blessed with the most generous nature, when the synagogue sexton, that's the shamash, right? The guy that takes care of the shul, approached the poor and homeless to arrange meal placements for them with towns householders, as is customary in Jewish communities, he received the same reply from all of them. What did they all say? The paupers, thank you, but I've already been invited for a Shabbat meal. Who invited all the paupers? The wagon driver. See what's going on over here? It's a little confusing. The wagon driver is inviting everyone for Shabbat dinner, and the businessman is trying to schlep a wagon out of the mud. Neither of them did a great job at what they needed to take care of. Unfortunately, however, the coachman's budget was hardly equal to his generous heart. It would be most difficult to believe that his dozen guests left his table with more than a shadow of a meal in their hungry stomachs. Thus, the coachman, with his 20 years of experience in pulling wagons out of the mud holes, took it upon himself to feed a small army, while the wealthy businessman, whose Shabbat meal leftovers could easily have fed every hungry man within a 10-mile radius, floundered about in a ditch. Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Lubavitch told this story and explained its lesson. Every soul is entrusted with a mission unique to her alone, and is granted the specific aptitudes, talents, and resources necessary to excel in her ordained role. One must take care not to become one of those lost souls who wander haplessly through life, trying their hand at every field of endeavor except for what is truly and inherently their own. He actually finishes the story and says that when they passed away, they went up to heaven and they called them souls that are lost. These are wandering souls, and they sent them back again, reincarnation, that the soul of the coachman should come back and help someone out of the mud, because the soul of the rich man should come back and help feed people. This time they would come back and get their task corrected and not be doing the wrong job.
What should the businessman have done in that situation?
Very good question Marlene asked. The businessman should not help because he doesn't know how to pull, he doesn't know how to schlep. And the answer is he should have hired someone that knows what they're doing. AAA, the Stettel version of AAA. He could have used his wealth to find someone that knows what they're doing and hired him. So this way he would be helping them, but not doing something he doesn't know how to do. And the coachman maybe should have invited one or two of the guests to his house and allowed the other members of the synagogue who maybe could afford to feed the guests a little better. Maybe he should have invited one guy and give him a good meal instead of inviting 30 and each of them leaving hungry as they left. So they all meant well and they all are doing mitzvahs, but they just got a little confused as to what their particular job was. So here you have an example of, without identifying what your mission is, you might do good things, but you might just be going in the wrong direction. As the statement says, somebody who can cut diamonds and is baking bread, it's a sin. Not because there's anything wrong with baking bread, but this person, his thing is diamonds, so that's what he should be doing. I mean, it's not one better than the other. It's where your strength lies. That's where you should be focusing. So the message here is, right? Find your mission. The second message is, just like in the story, it should not be that difficult to find your mission. It's not like you have to kind of be a prophet. There's just like in the story, it was pretty obvious what their mission should have been. And therefore, same thing for us. We have to take the time to think about it. But if we think about it long enough and hard enough, we will figure out what our mission is. Okay? So those are the two messages from this story. We have a unique mission, and we should be able to get to figure it out. Okay? That's the message. Anyone have any questions as we go forward? Let's look at this on the screen. How do I get to the next slide? See? I'm not trying to do it. I got him to. Okay.
That's a good example.
What? That's Janice, yes.
Hi, whoever that is.
Yeah, I'm transferring the messages over here. So we all have one unique mission.
Did you share your screen yet, Rabbi? Because I don't see anything.
Oh, you're not seeing it?
No.
I can see it. I can see your screen.
Really? Yeah, I've had trouble with this in a couple of lessons ago, but okay. I don't know what to do about it. But I have my book,
Be
so
like the businessman trying to schlep a horse out of the mud. Where I'd be spending an hour on your machine, and your machine would look worse than when I started with it.
that's okay. I'll manage without it.
Okay, sorry. At least you have your book.
Yeah.
So now, okay, we all have our unique mission, and we should try to go. And it doesn't have to be too complex to get there. It could be a straight, right? As they say in Yiddish, as beken gehen gleich, für was darf man kriechen krumm? Something like that. Why go like, if you could go straight down the straight path, why do you have to go crooked? Try to go straight.
An Israeli would say, why break your head?
Oh, why break your head? Okay, I like that. But the point of the matter is, a lot of times in life, we seem to be climbing up the wrong place. Okay, and it says clearly in the Torah that God says, I'm not asking you to work with my power. I'm asking you to work with your own power, which means I'm not expecting you to do more than you can. We all have our own limited abilities, and we should know that we're only expected to get it the way we could handle it. That's one thing. Another thing is, it says the Torah is not in heaven. You don't have to fly to, I know today we can go to heaven, we can go aircraft, but we don't have to go like out of our box to be able to figure out what needs to be done. God is making it within our reach. In fact, the entire Tanya comes from the verse that says it's very near to you. With the ficha v'vavcha lasoto, in your mouth to say the words, to do, and your heart to do, and to do what needs to be done. Okay, now we're going to go further. Anyone have any questions as we go forward here? Pursue it. Doesn't have to be complex. Know what you need to do and do it. Okay? All right. So now, we want to now go into the 10-point narrative. Okay? And this is based on a story. His name is Elia Tzvi Einbinder. His son is a rabbi of the valley. He's in Tarzana. Rabbi Mordechai Einbinder. He's a colleague of mine. He runs the Chabad in Tarzana, Chabad of the Valley. His father was Mr. Elia Tzvi Einbinder, born 1913, the Chabad family in the small Russian village. Okay. And as a young boy, he came to the United States with his family, and he settled where? In New Haven, Connecticut. He was in public school. He grew up. And his parents sent him, when he got older, to a yeshiva called Torah Vadas. And when he finished school, What? What happened?
Your language
The
Oh.
captions.
Okay. What?
or bad out.
Oh, Gewalt. Okay. Be careful. The family program over here. Okay. Huh? So he went into the paper business, and then when the previous Rebbe came to America in 1940, they were in contact with the previous Rebbe, and they traveled to New York. And the Rebbe suggested a match, a shidduch, for him in 1942. He got engaged, he got married. He's Mr. Elliot Tzvi was a modest man, sweet, it's on the quiet side, and he was very loyal. Now he was in a new phase, and it was time for him to decide what he should do in his life, with his life. And he asked the previous Rebbe, how do I realize my purpose in life? And he got a long letter back with specific 10 things about how you decide to travel in life. Now, to make up our lives, he was told by the previous Rebbe, are 10 parts of our story, of our life, which will define our individual mission. Okay? These 9 of the 10 are signposts in our life to discover our personal mission. The first is, what is our mission? And the next 9 are the signposts of how to get there. Okay? So now we're going to go through what is these personal mission. I've been just trying to see, for the benefit of people that are online here, if I'm reading, maybe be able to hear it better. Are you able to hear when other people read?
Yes.
Well?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, so then we can go and have people read as well.
Yeah.
So
Are you talking?
No, we're muted.
I'm going to ask Davis to share the story of our lives. Go ahead.
Story of Our Lives is a book that requires study. This book ought to be the compass for how we go about life.
Text
The
2.
story of our lives consists of the reason we were created, to whom we were born, the place of our birth, the time period of our birth, the type of education and guidance we received, the environment in which we grew up, our talents, our inborn emotional disposition, our characteristics and inclinations, how divine providence guided us until the day we became independent and assumed a position in life. These 10 factors form the narratives of our individual lives and become a book that requires study. These factors are supposed to guide which pathways we choose and how we behave, whether in interpersonal relationships or in our relationship with God.
Okay, thank you very much, Davis. So what we're saying is we're going to study these factors in our lives, and through that, we're going to be able to understand better the signposts of what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, the first thing is, what do we say? The reason we were created, right? Well, the reason we were created, you look in the Torah, we have a clear idea that God created us to make a home for him in this world, to make a dwelling place for God in this world, to make this physical world a godly place. Okay? But how do we carry out that mission? Yeah, you can say, generally speaking, for a Jew, by following God's commandments, studying his Torah, giving charity, fulfilling the commandments, right? Making this world a godly place. But a lot of how we do it is based on these 9 factors. First of all, it's our parents. A lot of us, from our parents, some things we learn what to do, and then for many, there's a lot of things we learn what not to do, right? And we have to decide from our parents how much of what our parents taught us. It's like you sift out some things and you keep other things. Same thing with friends, but we start off with the parents that brought us into this world. Takes 3, right? The father and the mother and God, right? And our parents that brought us up, we should acquire their good traits and try to stay away from their negative traits. Okay? That's one thing. Also, if you need to help somebody in life, let's say charity, tzedakah, you know that the parents are the first people one should help. Someone's parents need help. according to the Torah, first people we help are our parents. After that, our children. Interesting.
The first person we help is ourselves.
What? Correct.
Tzedakah.
Tzedakah.
We help is ourselves. We have got to have something to give.
Of course.
So
So then that is saying that, right, if you have only one flask of water and you're in the desert, and you could give it to someone else and they survive, or keep it for yourself, you don't have to give it to the other person. Your life takes precedence. Correct. We're talking about when you're giving charity, there is a level, there's a order of importance. And generally it goes parents, children, siblings, other relatives, neighbors, residents of your city, and then people from another city come after that. Okay? Or if God forbid somebody's a hostage and you can only redeem one of them, who comes first? It's another question. Just like you would have the obligation to redeem your parents, your children, your family, and then others after. It doesn't mean you don't care about others, but there is an order. Okay, then there is the place of birth. Where you're born is important as well. Elia Tzvi, for example, was born in a Russian village. Who was his neighbors? They were all God-fearing Jews, right? So obviously they had an influence on how it was, right? A lot of people, when they move from like the shtetl to the United States, for example, they try to forget their life in the shtetl, and now they're American. But the Rebbe was saying to him, the previous Rebbe, for you, it's important to remember your origins, where you came from. Remember who you grew up with. Just because you're in America now, don't forget those important lessons, those important messages of how to live life the way God taught us to live. Those are very important things as well. Then the time of your birth. For example, and this a lot of times the leaders of the generation will set the tone for this. The Rebbe was very strong about the idea that because a lot of Jews don't know about their faith, for example, that we all should be focused on helping others to learn more Torah and mitzvot, right? Where in the past they left that to the rabbis maybe, but today every one of us has to do that. At least part of our week should be, we should all take on upon ourselves that if you know the letter Aleph, then teach the letter Aleph, or whatever it may be. You know something that someone else doesn't know, try to help them, right? See that with putting on tefillin, and one Jew can help another, give them Shabbat candles. We all have to spend time in inspiring each other. Who set that agenda? The Rebbe was very much involved in setting that. I just came back from the conference of the rabbis of the Shluchim all over the world. There's over 100 countries Chabad, and the whole idea is that you're all over the world. Why are you moving there? Because you know that there might be one person, one Jew that's far-flung place, and you have to be there to help that person that is in need, regardless of whether you know who they are or whether you're just there to help them. And we all need to do that today. And that's that's based on the generation we live in. Rabbi also said that we're in the generation right before the Mashiach. We have to prepare the world for the Mashiach to come. We're in history. We could be living now in the times of the Second Temple, would have been a little bit different. Very different, right? But no, we're living in 2025 and in America. And that has a lot to do with what we're supposed to focus on. And your neighbor maybe never heard of Shabbat, or never heard of kosher, or never heard of Hanukkah. Maybe Hanukkah, it's very hard not to have heard of it. But the point of the matter is we all have our own importance to educate people. And then your education, right? What kind of education were you given growing up, right? He received a Hasidic education growing up. And that really kind of, actually, he grew up, he was told by the Rebbe not to go to a Chabad minyan, to help another shul that was non-Chabad, help them go to their shul, teach them Torah and Hasidic teachings, etc., etc. So, a lot of times the Rebbe told one person who wanted to become a rabbi, my father-in-law, blessed memory, wanted to drop out of his teaching credential and just become a rabbi. And the Rebbe told him, don't become a rabbi. Finish your credentials. You already put this effort into it. Finish what you started. And he never became a rabbi, but he was influential in teaching and the headmaster of his school in the Judaic studies. Or the Rabbi Yaakov, Yaakov Bloch, and he wanted to become a rabbi, dropped out of Penn, I think it was Penn State. And he was told by the Rebbe, get your PhD. You're going to do more for Judaism with those 3 letters, PhD, than you would as a rabbi, he was told. So in certain cases, one person he was about to become a rabbi, he wanted to become a pilot. The Rebbe said, become a rabbi. You're already almost there. Don't drop what you're doing and now become a pilot. So it depends on what circumstances you are brought up with. And usually the Rebbe directed people, if they're already involved with something, finish what you're doing, and then you can serve God and the community with whatever it is that your education was. Everyone with me on this so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then the environment in which you grew up. Okay, this guy, Elliot Tzvi, grew up, he was born in the shtetl, but he grew up in America. Americans are very different than people, the shtetl. The shtetl people, they were very kind of quiet. They weren't like going to scream on top of their lungs of what's going on, right? They weren't posting on Facebook what they had for dinner, I'm sure, right? It's a very different mentality than American people. If you grew up in America, right? So then you can use the American, let's say, chutzpah. You could use that, the fact that you grew up here in the United States, use that in the way you serve Hashem and what you do, okay? Being open outwards, like Europeans are generally much more closed and reserved, right? And Americans are much more loud and, out there, just share everything. So each one has its advantage. He grew up in the United States, so he said, use those positive qualities and being loud about your Judaism, right? Be like out there. Don't be insular, but be out there. I'm saying that these are all things. Then there you got the talents. What talents do you have? This is number 7. If you're good at art, look at Rabbi Yosef's dad. He's an artist, and go look around this room. A lot of people have this false idea that Judaism tells us that you have to shy away from all the talents that you have and just read the Torah all day. People have this bogus idea that that's what Judaism says, but that's not the truth. The truth is God gives you a talent. You're a good singer. You're an artist. By all means, use it, but use it for positivity. Use it for holiness. Use it for, if you're a good builder, you can build a beautiful shul. You can build a mikvah. You could design a mikvah. You could, right? Whatever talents you have, you can use it. You have an MBA. You could develop a nonprofit, whatever it may be, to save all the homeless people and so on, whatever it may be. Whatever you can do, you can always use your particular traits, talents. And then we have the inborn traits. This is basically how we're going to learn more about that. We're going to skip that for now. But our inborn emotional disposition, characteristics, and inclinations. And finally, there is Hewlett-Packard. Why do I say Hewlett-Packard? You know why? What's the abbreviation for Hewlett-Packard? HP. Hashgacha Pratis means individual divine providence. And that means by divine providence, you have to look at your life and see God is guiding every single person. Even when a leaf falls off a tree, the Baal Shem Tov once said that is exactly the way it was supposed to be. And he picked up the leaf, says, why did the leaf fall off the tree? He said, why? Because it was a worm that was hot, and God wanted the worm to be warm, shaded. So he made the wind blow and the leaf fall off and cover the worm. So everyone in their life, I guarantee you, if I went around the table now, you could all share with me many, many stories of how you saw God's hand in guiding you where you are today. And that's called divine providence. So that's an important part of life. God leads you to where you need to be. Somehow he leads us to where we need to do to have the impact that we need to have. Okay? So these are all the different things that we talk about that we could really look at as the guidance in life. So look at the screen. We got parents, place of birth, time period of birth. We got education. We got environment. We got talents. We got emotional disposition, character, and inclinations. Again, those two we're going to 2 or 3 items we're going to talk about later on. And then you got, okay, so that's where we are up to right now. Okay. Everyone with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone have any questions as we go? These are all important things. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I'm going to do an exercise here. It's on page 90, exercise 3.1. And in what way do these factors play a role in your personal mission as you currently conceive it? So quickly jot down, we don't have too much time to go through it at length, but go quickly jot down your answers. Get the full benefit
Experience.
of the how do these factors play a role in your personal mission?
Diane, right now, I feel like forever today, Hatavim, Lech Lecha, the flats I show you. That's exactly what happened in my life. I was, you know, I didn't know any English. I was picked up to go to Boston University. You know how much I had to learn because of that. But how did I? How did I? You know, I don't understand how it happened. You know, I had good jobs. I worked very hard. People liked what I was doing. They offered me a scholarship. They said, go. But I really feel like this, the way Hashem told to everyone, go to the place.
Beautiful.
You.
Beautiful. Hashem was guiding you. So here you have an example, the net sharing, being born in Morocco and somehow ending up at Boston University. What's the likelihood? Morocco to Boston University, right? Straight train. That's like it's the express train. As we grew up in Brooklyn, have the subway. That's divine providence. There you have, looking at God leading you down on this path. Okay, so now that we're left with, everyone knows that we have to start looking at ourselves on a deeper level to understand what is our inborn emotional disposition and characteristics and inclinations. Okay, and a lot of people grow up and don't even know much about themselves, right? They've never really studied themselves. And therefore, that's where people take this personality test and try to figure out more about themselves. But we're going to start off in the Torah's analysis by understanding the words called sfirot. You've heard of these concepts of sfirot? And basically, if I have to explain it to you, one way I could explain it to you, that God is infinite. He wanted to create a world that was finite, okay? So he needed to make a definition within himself. And these are called the 10 sfirot. Once he defined himself in these 10 sfirot, he used these 10 sfirot through which he can create a limited world, an interface with humanity. Right? I'll give you an example. You have a mother who is a mother, a spouse, she's a wife, she's also maybe a lecturer, right? She runs a business. So one person looks at, as a mother, looks at her, the son says, oh, this is a loving mother. The people that hear her lectures says maybe she's a wise person. The answer is she's none of the above. She is her soul. She is who she is, but she contains within herself wisdom. She contains within herself kindness. These are all attributes of herself, but that's not who she is. These are her attributes. Same thing with God. God is not these 10 attributes, sphirot. God is beyond these 10 sphirot. But God manifests himself in these 10 different sphirot to relate to the world. Does that make sense? In other words, they don't define God as God's essence, just like doesn't this person who has wisdom and who has kindness. That's not, I have wisdom, I have kindness, but there's the I that's beyond the wisdom and beyond the kindness. So God is beyond these sphirot. These sphirot were created as a way to interface with this world. And a lot of Kabbalah and a lot of Hasidic teaching talk about these sphirot, and we manifest these 10 levels within ourselves as well, because we're created in the image of God. So just like God has these 10 sphirot, we also have these 10 powers within ourselves as well. And understanding them better will give us a spiritual and a better personality test to understand who we are and which of these 10 sphirot are manifest within ourselves, which is the most dominant traits of these 10 that we have. Some are more dominant than others. We have to understand which we have to look at ourselves, and this is what we're going to be doing now for the next while. We're going to be going over how they are within God and how they play out within ourselves to just understand ourselves better. Once we understand ourselves better, we could be able to apply that to our strengths and understand who we are, and therefore lead a more meaningful and happy life, because now we're on the track to use out those particular dispositions that God gave us and to be able to use them in a proper way. You okay?
Yes.
Because if you're really close to me, you can get hit by the very dangerous to be very close. Because rabbis, they like to use your hands so much that I didn't mean to hit you or anything. Okay, I didn't get you. Huh? Can you see those people on the phone? Just go around. Well, it's not going to help that they don't see that. All right. So let's get right into it, okay? Text number 3. Marlene, take it away. Yeah, read it in the...
92?
Oh, yeah, page 92.
Elijah opened his discourse with a prayer. Master of the worlds, you are one and transcend the sphirot. You are exalted above all the exalted ones, hidden from all the hidden ones. No thought can grasp you whatsoever. You are the one who brought forth 10 garments, which we call the 10 sphirot, through which to direct concealed worlds and revealed worlds.
So you notice what he says here? This is the Zohar, Book of Radiance, Kabbalah. You transcend the sphirot because God in his essence is beyond the sphirot, right? You're exalted beyond all of them, right? But you use them just like you have garments you put on clothing for specific purposes. You use the sphirot as garments through which you conduct the world, okay? God has wisdom, but is he wisdom? It's a garment of Hashem. You have wisdom. Are you wisdom? No, you're a soul that has wisdom. You have kindness, but are you kindness? No, you are a soul that has kindness. Okay? So God transcends it all, but yet vests himself in order to create and sustain our universe into these 10 levels. Okay? Okay? By the way, all through these 10 spheres, God creates all of the world. Just like you have a limited amount of colors, there's red, yellow, and blue, and so on. You can combine those colors to create all these different colors. Here we have an artist here with us, right? Same thing with the 10th sphere. God creates all these myriads of different worlds and everything, and all the different creations just through these 10 spheres. Or if you have the notes, the 12 notes, musical notes, you can have millions and millions different types of music, right? But it all comes from these basic 12 notes. So here we're going to go. We're going to show a video about these 10 sphirot, okay? Here we go. So there's background, and then there's my personality. We were created This is back to the nine things: time period, birth, parents, education, environment, place of birth, right? You know the joke, the kid comes home from school with an F on his report card, and the kid asks his parents, is that because of nature or nurture? Wouldn't take an ounce of responsibility there, right? So then we have our talents, our emotional disposition, and our character and inclinations. So some of it is our background and some of it is our personality. Okay? So we're talking about, for example, the different roles of this lady over here that we're talking about: a loving mom, a wise leader, and then the same thing with Hashem, God. Different roles manifest in different attributes, but his core transcends these attributes. Okay? If I could take away this little thing, can you take this away, that whole thing? Move it somewhere? Wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Can we get rid of that?
We'll go away in a second. There you go.
There you go. See that? Unbelievable. So we're going to go through the 10 sfirot. There's Hashem, which is beyond the sfirot. There's Chachma, Bina.
Is that on your screen, Rabbi?
Can you see it?
No.
You don't see?
The 10 sfirot? No.
Well, I only gave two. So far, there's only two on the screen.
It's in the
Okay.
book, Janice, if you want to look at the book on page 93.
Yeah, I have it open. Hi, Rebecca. Thank you.
Hi, Janice.
You see Chachma, Dot. You see that? Chesed,
Yes. Got it.
Tiferet, Netzach, Od, Yesod, and Malchut. So we got 10, right? And that's, again, they're different roles that manifest different attributes, but then God's core transcends all of these attributes. Here's a little video that will help understand it.
What is a painting? Yeah. The old case of creation have in common. You and I can get to that, okay, we live in colors. But what they are actually is a pattern of primary colors. They combine millions of variations of ratios that drenching the universe into delightful, awesome visual coloring. A similar principle works for music. Innumerable melodies exist, which can be played on countless forms of instrument. But the melody we are hearing can be stripped down to just a petite handful of primary musical notes. That's how God created the universe, with just a basic handful of spiritual elements, fine in myriads of ratios, form the splendid symphony of creation. God first created the mystical Sephirot, through which is infinite light to be condensed, attracted, and then released his individual attributes that could eventually give rise to a diversity of finite creations. Let's make man in our own image, said God. No sooner said than done. Man was created in his creator's image, with his own internal set of 10 attributes through which he operates. These 10 spiritual attributes are reflected in the physical human anatomy. Let's go through them one by one. Sephira, 1. Chokmah. Chokmah is the initial seed of an idea, a flash of undeveloped inspiration. It enables us to be creative, spiritual, transcendent. Sephira 2. Bina. Bina is the development of ideas. It enables us to be logical, analytical, organized. Sephira 3. Dot. Dot allows us to focus on an idea so that it becomes relevant and personally meaningful. It enables us to be attentive, principled, involved. Sephira 4. Asset is the share and look kindly upon others. It enables us to be generous, optimistic, sociable. Sephira 5. Gavura is the power of discipline and restraint. It enables us to be calculated, cautious, serious. Sephira 6. Tiferet is the power to empathize and harmonize kindness with strictness based on the needs of others. It enables us to be balanced, empathetic, harmonious. Sephira 7, Netzach, is the power of determination to overcome challenge. It enables us to be persistent, forceful, daring. Sephira 8, Hod, is the power of humility, gratitude, and submitting to a higher cause. It enables us to be thankful, devoted, accommodating. Sephira 9, Yesod, is the power to focus on others and to build genuine relationships. It enables us to be selfless, altruistic, loyal. And last, but not at all least, Sephira 10, Malchut. Malchut has multiple functions. It is the power of speech and action, effective communication and leadership, and to be receptive to others. It enables us to be leading, communicating, achieving. So there you have it, 10 components of the human self, the internal mechanism on which all intellect, emotion, and actions run. God used 10 Sephirot to create his universe, and we use our 10 Sephirot to shape our miniature universes.
Okay. Wow. These titles are pretty. Okay. So now we just learned, let me get back in here. So we just learned the 10 Sefirot by God, and we're going to go through them by ourselves. Let's start with Chokhmah, okay? What is Chokhmah? It's intuition. There are some people that are good. It's like the seed. It's the aha moment. It's the light bulb that goes off in your head when you're trying to understand something. All of a sudden, boom, I got it. That's Chokhmah, right? And they ask him, what did you get? I don't know. I don't even know what I got yet. I can't explain it to you because you haven't had Bina yet. Bina is the details of understanding the specifics. Chokhmah is the initial lightning. So some people are very intuitive. They come up with new ideas. How to get it done, they have no clue. It's interesting that it says that women have more Bina than men. What it says. It's a lot of times husbands say, yeah, we need to go there, but he has no clue how to get there.
I thought you said Chokhmah was intuition.
Yes, Chokhmah.
Now you said Bina. Women have more Bina? Did you mean this? So who has more intuition?
Oh, like women have more Bina, they figure out the details and how to make things happen in this world. That's more of if the details of how to get things done. Chokhmah is just you have an idea, good at coming up with ideas, but how to make that idea translate into this world is Bina. It's the details. The women have more Bina. It says that God gave more Bina to women more than men. You got it, Stuart?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, the word Chokhmah has two words to it. Chokhmah is koach ma, the power of what? It's a power where I don't know what's going on yet. I just know I had an idea. I don't still have a clarity as to what it is. Okay? Each of these things have an exercise. So I want you to go to exercise 3.2a. And each one we're going to give you like 30 seconds. Just decide, look at yourself, and tell yourself, do you have a dominant Chokhmah soul? It means, are you creative, intuitive, original, spiritual? Okay? That's Chokhmah. 5 would be very dominant and 1 is very weak. Okay, let's go on to Bina. What is Bina? Bina is you have an analytical mind, right? You're more figure out the details. Let's see. So again, that's Chachma's intuitive knowledge. And then we had Bina is understanding, logical breakdown of creative ideas. Okay? You take the Chachma and you're able to break it down. And I ask yourself, like someone wants to build a home, he has no clue how to get it done. Chachma is what you want your home to be, but you don't have the details, right? The blueprint is the breakdown. That's the technical. That's the Bina. So now let's do the exercise 3.2b to decide if you have Bina. You want to write down. You can write down for yourself. Analytical, logical, organized, studious. Okay. That's the second one. Now we're going to go on to the third one, Das. You know what Das is? Das is connection. Look at the screen for a second. Das connection makes information personal and relevant internalization. Das means knowledge, yes. But when it says that Adam was intimate with Eve, it says Adam knew Eve in Hebrew. Adam yada et Chava. Okay? So intimacy is das. So what does that mean? For example, the whole idea of advertising. Advertising is taking a product and being able to make it from an abstract thing to something that I feel like I need. Right? If you can get someone's das through that, right? I'll give you an example. There was once a rabbi who lived in a shtetl. Nobody was able to read Hebrew. This guy got a letter, and he had the rabbi open the letter and read the letter. And he read, "This letter is from your father. Your father passed away." And the guy he read it to, he fainted. And then when he got up, he said, "I don't understand. You read the letter. You didn't faint. I was just listening to the letter and I fainted. Why didn't you faint if you were closer to the letter than me?" It's very simple, because it's not my father, it's your father. So das means that it was relative it was relatable to him, right? You find sometimes somebody lives in a very big Jewish community, right? So one time a guy, he was in Russia on a wagon hitchhiking to the Baal Shem Tov. I think it was the Baal Shem Tov. And he was there was barrels of vodka. He was freezing. In the middle, the guy says, "What about, do you want a little bit of vodka?" He drank the vodka, and now he's in cold Russia, now he feels warm. And he got to the Baal Shem Tov and says, "Everything you see in life is a lesson." What's the lesson? He said, as long as you were sitting amongst the barrels of vodka, but you didn't drink any of it, you were still cold. You drank it, internalized it, it brought you warmth. Sometimes someone could live in Jerusalem and doesn't know anything about Judaism. No clue. Sees everybody walking around, but it never ever meant anything to them, right? You ever see that? It's like there was no das, there was no connection to what the information was there, never connected to it. And then you have someone that lives in Ventura County, and he's coming to Torah study on a Tuesday night in the cold, difficult weather that we have in Camarillo. Fighting the snow. You should have seen Ken coming over here, the howling wind. Right? But he made it. That's what Das does. Das is connection. Yes? So let's go to Das. Exercise of Das is decisive, emotionally present, focused, forging strong connection. Now we're going to go on from the intellectual, and the first three were intellectual, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And now we're going to go to the emotional. Kindness, okay? Know the story? I have my joke director here to tell me how this one, if it's okay to say this one. He said, Ken said it's okay. He said it's good. So this guy was over at someone's house, an elderly couple, and he kept on saying, honey, dear, pumpkin. He was so blown away. They're married for 60 years, and every attribute, sweetie, and his wife was in the kitchen. And he goes over to him and says, how beautiful the way you speak to your wife. So he looks around and says, I forgot her name 10 years ago.
That's cute.
Huh? So first thing is kindness and love, right? It's the inner desire, right? To give, to share. This is a kind person is like Abraham. Abraham gave to everybody. He had an open tent, even if the people that used to bow down to the worship the dust, they prayed to the dust on their feet, right? He didn't care. He gave everybody. You know, kindness gives everybody. Doesn't look at the person they're giving to, just gives. Because that's kindness. Okay? So that's next exercise. Check to see if you're cheerful, extroverted, generous, kind, loving, optimistic. Desire to give and share without restraint, right? By the way, sometimes kindness could be too much, right? Let's say you're spoiling your kids. One way, is that good kindness? Or let's say somebody's enabling somebody to take drugs, or they're supplying somebody, they're trying to think that they're being kind, but their kindness is without any limitation, right? And so on and so forth. Then you got Gvura, the next of the attributes. Again, this is all kindness, seeing people in a positive light. Let's go on to Gvura. Gvura is discipline, okay? Restraint, okay? He's very calculated. You know, Gvura, whereas the kind person doesn't care about the recipient, Gvura looks exactly at the recipient and says, are you worthy of my kindness? It's judging somebody to see if they're worthy to receive your kindness. Okay, so look, Gvura on the screen, calculated, grounded, realistic, meticulous in how and whom to give. Also, it could be someone very self-disciplined. This person gets up exactly when they need to and is very disciplined about everything in life. So look at yourself, see, are you more of a Gvura person? Cautious, critical, disciplined, frugal, introverted, perfectionist, purist. Davis is shaking his head. You're the first attribute, right? Right? Now we're going to go into the third one, and this is a combination. I'll take the combo, please. This is in between kindness and severity. It's called Tiferes. He used to work, right? He used to work at a fast food place, right? The combo. What? They're kosher fast foods. I just came back from Brooklyn. There's a lot of kosher fast food in Brooklyn. No, I never went, and I don't ever plan to go to In-N-Out or McDonald's and any of these places. But they have McDavid's, maybe in Israel. They have kosher McDonald's, I think. I once went to a KFC, a kosher KFC in Mevaseret Zion. It was a big deal to see a kosher places that I wouldn't walk into otherwise. So you got Tiferes, compassion. What is true beauty? I'm going to ask Carol. When you have colors that are mixed correctly as an artist, you can synthesize colors together. That's the true beauty, right? When they come together in a beautiful, beautiful, like the cloak of Joseph had a beautiful coat with many colors, right? Wow, beautiful. Beautiful. I have a joke about the person who once went into the art store in Madison Avenue, and they shows him this thing with some black canvas, like everything's black, and one yellow dot that's gonna be $50,000. He shows him some masterpiece. It's like, I'll take it. Comes back a year later, and I want another piece of art. 7 dots, yellow dots. It's way too busy, he says. Way too big. Anyway, so the idea behind it here is that Tiferes is not like the kind person who doesn't care about the recipient, doesn't look at the recipient. Tiferes is the beauty. It represents a mixture between chesed and gvura, kindness and severity. He looks at the recipient and says, well, you're worthy or you're not worthy. And then says, you know what, I have compassion. I'm going to help you because I feel like even though you might not be worthy, but I see your need. So it's not indifferent. The kind person doesn't even care about the recipient situation, just gives. The strict person is very much only about the receiver. But the fairest person sees the person, but the compassion allows them, ultimately they act with a compassionate way. Okay, that's the next level. True beauty from harmonization results. Now that, ask yourself on page 99, are you balanced? Are you compassionate? Are you empathetic? Are you good listening? Are you sensitive? These are all Tiferes qualities. All right? Everyone with me online there? They all left.
When you put them to sleep.
I'm here.
As the rabbi once put someone to sleep and he was snoring, he says, you know, you could sleep, but you're disturbing other people's sleep. Okay. Netzach. Ken, you ready for the quiz at the end?
It's true or false, right?
True or false? Very good. My father said he did well in school because he knew how to take multiple choice tests. We got good at taking the test. Okay. True beauty. Balance of chesed and gvura. The balance of kindness and severity. Okay. Now netzach. Netzach is determination, determined to win and succeed. Adversity brings out the best. This is someone, the word netzach means victory, overcomes obstacles, won't stop, just keeps on going, right? The people that persevere no matter what, they're just going to keep on going. So you have that inside of you. Are you bold, competitive, consistent, determined, gritty, thrives on adversity? That's a netzach person. She's saying, no, that's completely, you put one at all of those. Okay, listen. What? Okay, listen. It's not about good or bad. It's just about what type of person you are. And you really, it's not like you just have to know what qualities you contain, or what's your attributes, so that you know which direction to go. Okay. What's the next one? Hod. Hod is submission, inclination to submit to a higher cause, humility, patience, and gratefulness. In fact, we're coming up to Thanksgiving here, and Hodu, to thank, is Hodu. Actually, in also Hebrew, a turkey is called a Hodu. Hanagol Hodu. It's interesting. It's called a thankful a thankful bird.
Also India.
Okay, and it's also India. Also, Jew, we said, comes from the word Yehuda. Yehuda is Judah, which means to be thankful. To be Jewish is to be thankful. So to be thankful, you submit to something greater than you. When you say thank you, you're saying that someone gave you something that you didn't have. So you're submitting to them. Some people have a hard time to say thank you. Your ego is very up there. It's hard to say that someone added to your life. Okay?
About Thanksgiving. Well, this is personal. But I said Thanksgiving is not one time a year. Every day is
Oh, beautiful. Modani.
Shabbat, which is Thanksgiving once a week. Once a week we have Shabbat.
My wife tries to explain that she makes a Thanksgiving dinner once a week to people that cook once a year. Yes. Okay, so
Always help somebody
who needs it? Thing. That's very nice. Sponsor a meal for someone, right? Very good. Yes. So let's go further. the story, talking about patience. There's a guy, Jacob, who had a lack, the lack of patience. He was a Russian guy and is just learning English, and they taught him the word cultivate. And they said, use it in a sentence. I was waiting for the bus, and it was too cold to vape, so I just took a cab. Yeah? Did you know him? You know that guy? You know of him. Okay.
That's like Marie Antoinette. The war. Marie Antoinette, we have no breasts. Give them cake.
Very good. So Hod is someone who is patient, accommodating, devoted, grateful, and humble. Okay, we're getting there. Yesod is selfless, connection to others, interested in genuine relationships. Selfless, altruistic, connection to other people. Okay, ask yourself. And then finally, the last one, Malchus. Malchus is expression, is ability to lead, associated with speech, action, receptivity. This is a very powerful one. Are you a leader? Are you a communicator? Expressive, receptive, and implementer. That's Malchus. Okay, we went through all the 10 sfirot. These are all applied by God, but also they manifest in ourselves. To review, we have wisdom, understanding, knowledge, kindness, severity, compassion, endurance, bonding, humility, and leadership. Okay, I'm going to pick one of you to say it. We're going to start. Okay, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot over there. So now the key is that it has to become personal, right? You can say, oh, what is my job? I'm supposed to follow God's commandments and learn the Torah, but that's so general. How do you make it personal? For example, where could you use your personality? So many areas. First of all, most of what we do throughout our day are not mitzvahs and not Torah study. For example, the mundane things we do, the work that we do. What kind of work am I going to do in my career? Or when I interpersonal relationships with other people, right? There's only a limited amount of time in the day that you're giving tzedakah, or you're putting on tefillin, you're lighting Shabbat candles. That's mitzvahs. Okay, that's very clear what you're supposed to do. Make a blessing, all the 613 commandments. What about all the mundane things that are not specifically mitzvot, but they're mundane things? I'm going to the mechanic today. Whatever, I'm going to pick a vacation where I'm going to go. All these different things manifest. Your personality has to manifest within them. And then there is number 2, or in Russia they say number 2. There's the idea that we could use our personalities in our mitzvahs. For example, if you're a good organizer, and let's say the shul needs a new building, you could be the organizer of the building. Or there's an event going on Hanukkah, and you're good at selling tickets, or you sell the tickets. You're good at raising money. You raise the money. In other words, whatever strength you have, you could use it in your mitzvah. Let's say you want to honor your father and mother, and you're very good at organizing. You organize the 60th anniversary. You'll be the one that organizes that. So there you're employing your strengths in a mitzvah. So just to say generally keeping the mitzvahs and it's the same by everyone it's not the way it works. You have to use your specific area of strength in the mitzvahs that we do. And then finally a third thing. So I said so far 2 things. Number 1 is there are non-mitzvahs things that we do, the regular mundane things we do every day. We have to use our personality. Number 2, within mitzvahs itself, know your personality. You might be good and outgoing, and you'll be a good person to help someone else. You're a scholar. You know how to teach very well. So teach. You know how to speak well. So draw. You know how to paint well. You can draw. You can do so many things. You can do mitzvahs through your talents. And number 3, every person is supposed to have from the 613 mitzvot at least one mitzvah where you shine more than everybody else. Like which mitzvah are you known for? When you think of this person, what are you going to think about when they think of you? Which mitzvah do you stand out? And based on who you are, based on all of these things that you're learning, your personality, you could figure out which mitzvah is going to be the mitzvah that I'm going to crush this one, right? David said, I'm going to just crush that mitzvah, right?
Yeah.
Do really well at this mitzvah.
How do we know? How do we know that we are evaluating ourselves the right way?
Oh,
I mean,
Nanette has an unbelievable question. And the answer to that question is, she asked, how do you know you're evaluating yourself correctly? You have to have a mentor. Very good.
That's a good.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Good, I'm done. The answer is you have to make for yourself a mentor. And it's not enough to review this personality thing yourself, but you have to review it with your mentor. When you do it with somebody outside of yourself, you can make your assessment, and then you could sit down with that person, and whoever it is, somebody that cares for you, that's obviously someone that cares and spiritually on a level higher than yourself, or that you respect, that respects you, that could sit down with you and objectively look you and say, you're completely off with this. You're saying about yourself, and sometimes you could be off in different ways. You could be off by being overcritical about yourself, or you can be over lenient about yourself. You could say, I'm a this, that, and that. No, you happen to be very much a kind. What are you writing? That you're not. You're very kind. You just don't know how to look at yourself properly. I can see that you're a very kind person, or I can see that that you need help in other areas that you may think you need somebody outside of yourself to look at this plan together with you. But if you sit down and take the time to do this, it's not rocket science. And it can be done. And it should be done.
last week I had asked, how do we know our purpose? And I thought you had said something about the hint was to look at where we're getting the most pushback. Pushback, or something like that. And so that's what I was thinking all week. And then this almost seems like it's telling you something different. It's saying to go where what things you do well.
Very good, Marlene. The answer is the answer is, once someone came to the rabbi, I always tell this joke, I have to say it again. And there was a couple looking for counseling, and she began by saying, my husband said this, this, and this, and this. And the rabbi said, you're right. And then he says, but my wife said this, this, and this. And the rabbi said, you're right. And the rabbi said, but how could they both be right? He said, you're also right. Well, the answer is that you're right. And on the one hand, I had the same question you had. And the answer is that on the one hand, just to repeat the question, last week we talked about how do you know that what area in life is important to you, where you see a lot of pushback. Why? Because God gave us all something called a Yetzer Hara, an evil inclination. And many times in life, we're going to have a pushback in the area that's most important for us. And a lot of times it can be both. There are certain areas in life that I have a strength and be good. I'm good at it. I know how to do that. But specifically in that area that I might be very good at, I'm going to get a pushback as well. See how there can be a combo. I'm going to take the combo and the fries on the side. On the one hand, I'm good at this. I can get this done really well. And specifically that area can many times also be an area that I'm getting a lot of pushback that I can't do it. So interesting, there's a combination. On the one hand, God gave me a talent to do it. So that should naturally be something that I'm good at. Let's say, an example, someone has a lot of money. They should naturally be giving a lot of charity. And then they come to the rabbi, I want to become a scholar. Say, forget the scholar. You're supposed to be giving tzedakah. Yeah, you should learn Torah as well. But if you're focused and you have all this money that you can make a difference in the world, but he has a pushback. He's like, I don't feel like I can part with my money. So, right? So he has abilities. This person, I'm giving an example. Someone has ability to give a lot of tzedakah, but they, for whatever reason, want to focus on becoming a genius scholar in the Torah. Is it wrong to be a scholar in the Torah? No. But for this person that can build yeshivas and synagogues and solve the problems in the town and make a difference in this world, and they want to spend their time learning, it's wrong. And why? So there you have a combination. They have a talent, they have abilities to do a lot of good, and yet they're getting a pushback in this area, and therefore they're focusing on that area, the other area. So you have example. And it's not to say that we're not supposed to work in areas of our weakness too. We also have to tackle those things. But where are we supposed to put most of our energy into? We should ideally put the energy into things that we could be successful with. But a lot of times we'll get pushback in those areas too.
So when we're going through all of these, on the ones that we say scored the lowest on,
right?
Are those areas we should sort of steer away from and put our emphasis on the,
So the answer is you could deal with those things too, which you should, but the first and foremost, deal with the things that you can have the biggest impact. You're going to get
kind of natural inclination.
You're going to spend all of your time focusing on fixing those things. First of all, you're going to have more success. And success breeds happiness. So you'll feel successful. You feel like we're going to learn, there's a study that when you're using your talents, you're going to feel better. You're going to be a happier person when you're using your talents. And you're also fulfilling your purpose, because we just said that God gave you these things so there's two happiness that comes out of today's class. This is the culmination. When you know what your specific mission is, then you're fulfilling. We said purpose equals happiness. So when you're doing right, instead of breaking bread, you're cutting your diamonds, which is your particular area of strength. You're going to be happy because you're doing your purpose. And as long as we're not doing our purpose, we're going to be missing our happiness. So we're fulfilling our happiness. Number two, just the fact that you're using your talents, it'll make you happy as well. So there's the purpose aspect of it, and then there's just the talent. Just using our talents makes us happy. We're doing something that we're good at, and the success of it also. A third thing is the success that we get from that will make us happy too. We see we're getting somewhere. So there's really a third aspect to it as well. So how happiness thinks today, what you come away with is that knowing where I fit in. What I'm saying, fit in, is a lot of times people think, oh, that guy's doing that guy's doing that. Reb Zusha was once crying. He said, when I go up to heaven, I'm not afraid that they're going to ask me why I wasn't like Abraham. I'm crying because I'm afraid they're going to ask me why I wasn't like Zusha. You hear what he's saying? Zusha was crying. He was a very big rabbi. Zusha of Anapola. He was from the city of Anapola. Or some would joke and say, it was so great that they named the whole city. The Reb Zusha of Anapola was crying at the end of his life. When I go up to heaven, they're going to say, why aren't you like Zusha? Are you fulfilling? Have you done in your life your capabilities? That's the question. Not somebody else's. So we can always get caught up with whatever. And today with social media, it's so easy to get caught up with what everyone else is doing. And I could say personally, you want to know, personally as a rabbi, it could be also very difficult. Why? Because you see another 4,000 Chabad houses, and everyone does their thing. Say, oh, you see that? I want to do that, right? But what happens is, if you're going to try to do everything that everyone else is doing, you're not going to get anything done right, right? You have to be able to hone in onto what you could do, right? I personally find that when you feel that you cannot get everything you want to get done, it could be very, very stifling and very, it's a downer, right? And you get overwhelmed, right? So you go to this kiddush we went to in Brooklyn. The idea is not to say, well, there's so many different ideas, and then you could easily, it's a very positive thing, but you can also easily get lost, right? I want to do all of that. Then you come back and it's like, whoa, I have a payroll that has to go out tomorrow. And I have, today, you want to hear, I don't want to say this out loud, but today I had the septic tank person come out to check out how to pump out, right? Pump out all of the sewer. So that's very, very lofty, coming from the grand conference of the rabbis going straight into the sewer. That's what happened today. I went from being up with 6,500 rabbis dancing and singing straight into the sewer of Camarillo into the back of my house. but the truth of the matter is that we all do that, right? We all have our moments. We're dealing with inspiration. You have a moment but then it comes back, and the reality is I have to meet the plumber, the septic tank, to do and here's a plug for the Mike Penta septic. No, just kidding. The number is. So the point of the matter is that we have to know in life what it is that we are doing, and what does God want from us? Where do I shine? Where, and the pushback sometimes will be in that area. And if you don't have a mentor, it'll be very hard to go through it. And that's why it's so important to have a mentor, because a lot of times you're not sure, is it just that I don't want to do it, or is it not something that I'm good at? And sometimes you can't differentiate between the two because you so much don't want to do that you've decided you're not good at it. Even though it's a lie. You're lying. We lie to ourselves when we try not to do something. I had something recently in life that someone asked me to do. It's a good thing. But I just knew it would take a lot of my energy. It would take a lot of my mind space. So I asked my mentor, should I take upon myself that? And he said, no. And for me, it was just, oh, okay, that was easy. If not, I'd be racking my brain, going back and forth, trying to figure it out and feeling guilty that I didn't do it. But I told the person, sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this particular thing, although I'm honored that you asked me to do it. And then I went on to other things. I have a full plate of things to do. But if I didn't have that conversation with my mentor, I would be still scratching my head to figure out whether I should do it or not, and feeling guilty that I did or didn't, or I would do it and then other things would fall from what I could have been doing. How are you going to make that decision? On your own? I don't. And Pirkei Avos says you shouldn't. Mishnah says make yourself a mentor and try to speak to them often as possible. When I get these young boys that come here from the yeshiva, I usually have a talk with them, and part of my talk is that they need to all get a mentor. I give them cash incentives. If you get your mentor and you speak to them once a week for a certain amount of time, I'm going to give you a gift. Because I felt like in my life, it's been so key until today to have that I can't. The Rebbe said that he requested that people should have the mentor, and they said it's a soulful request. It's a request from his soul. You don't think you've heard those words by the Rebbe from many other things other than that. I'm requesting it from my soul. Akosha nafshis. Okay, so let's conclude the class.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you have any other input besides what you said at the beginning about how to choose a mentor? Any other additional words of wisdom?
What were the first things I said? Just want to hear what you heard.
That's somebody that cares about us, that can really see us, that understands us. And
spiritually, maybe perhaps at least on par, but usually we look up to spiritually, important as well.
Okay.
Right? And someone that you're going to be comfortable sharing with, and someone that you're going to be able to submit to. In other words, if they tell you something and you're just not going to listen, so then why bother having that mentor? For me, when my mentor speaks, it's like I'm hearing it from the Rebbe. So even if I have a different opinion, even if I have a different opinion than my mentor, I'm going to allow his opinion to override mine. So if you're not ready, first of all, to share, put everything on the table, then it's not the right mentor. And if you're not ready to listen to what the mentor is saying, then it's not either the right mentor.
Makes sense.
What is in your past personality?
Not to listen.
Not to listen?
Yeah. So let's say you're a very creative type.
Right.
You're not a very decisive type.
Right.
And then you speak to your mentor and he tells you, okay,
I would say if you're not.
And that night you can't decide still. How does that work?
I think if you're indecisive, you need a mentor even more. Because who's going to help you make the decision? You might have a hard time deciding who's going to be your mentor, but at least when you can get that decision done, you'll be okay. Right? Huh? I used to be ambivalent, but now I'm not so sure anymore.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay.
Second, Janice, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was helpful. Those two things were very helpful.
Okay. US?
So if you have a mentor, is that somebody that you would you would exchange each other being mentors, or?
No.
I mean, can you do that?
I'm not my mentor's mentor.
Can you do that? Do you think?
I would say usually that's not the case.
Oh. Okay.
Usually your mentor will have someone that is their mentor, someone else. But you might be someone else's mentor. You know, my daughter is 10 years old and 8 years old. Oh, actually, I'm trying to think now. Their capitals, no, 7 and 9. Sorry, I'm going by their psalm. So I say Psalm 8 and 10. So they're in their 8th and 10th year. So you know when you say their psalm every day. So they establish in the school they go to right here that each of them have a mentor in the school. And it's like the kids from the older grade. So they have it's called in Hebrew mashpia. So my daughter comes home, I have a mentor. It's like someone like 2 grades older. And they sit together. I mean, at that age, it's more of like going through the missions that they have to light candles and to give out tzedakah, whether they're saying the Moda'ani every morning, and they have like this mission sheet and they help each other. The mentor helps them fill it out or something like that. So from a very young age, we have the concept of having a mentor. You know what that means? It basically means that you're not objective about yourself. And you need someone that's outside of yourself to look at yourself. And if you're not ready to listen to anyone else, so then you got to start working on that, because that's an ego issue mainly, right? And men usually have a harder time with that. To listen to other, you know. Some say that's why we were in the desert for 40 years. No one was willing to take directions. Right? Anyway, so where are we holding over here? We're getting caught up over here. Okay. So what are you going to use your personality for? Look on the screen. Divrei reshut. What? Translate that, Dr. Bierman.
Words of permission.
Concepts. Yeah. Dvarim, things. Permissible things.
Reshut is permission.
Yes. Permission. The divrei reshut is also like dvarim, things that are permissible. Number 2, method of performing mitzvot. Remember we said if you're good at, let's say, singing, you're going to be singing the Grammon at the birthday party because you're good at the, you know. Next, remember we said each person has to have their mitzvah that they're specifically really good at. Extra enthusiasm in that particular mitzvah, right? Let's do that. Let's do that text. Text number 4. I'm going to ask Ken, right? Is it Ken's turn or is it whose turn is it? You're going to do it? Okay. Go ahead.
It's book, right?
Correct.
Rav Yosef asked of Rav Yosef, son of Rabbah, with which mitzvah was your father most careful?
You know what he answered? Tzitzis. He used the tzitzis was the mitzvah that they were the most careful with. Okay? Everyone has to have a mitzvah. Not because they were looking for the fringe benefits from it. But okay. But that was the mitzvah that they shown. Next, Carol, your turn. Text number 5 from the Rebbe.
We all must pursue our mission in accordance with this personality because it comprises our portion in this world. For example, you are more cerebral. Utilize this trait for the study of Torah. Surely you will observe the other mitzvot and commit yourself to the mission shared by every Jew, but you will be extra particular and compassionate about Torah study because it comports with your personality. If kindness is your personality, utilize this trait to love and care for others. This includes sharing the rich heritage of Judaism with Jews who never had the opportunity to learn about it. This doesn't mean that you won't study Torah or perform other mitzvot. It means that you ought to be particularly spirited about your caring for others, given the unique capacity you have for this. If you are a pragmatic person who knows how to get things done, involve yourself in starting an organization and spare no effort to get it off the ground. Alternatively, an existing institution, a school, may have a particular challenge that is inhibiting students performing and do something. Perhaps it can alleviate the plight of the poor and homeless. Surely you will also study Torah, develop emotional connections with others, but place extra focus on getting things.
Okay, so we have come to the end of today's class. And what we are concluding with is, look at the screen, entry points for happiness. What is that? Utilizing strengths, engaged in purpose, in our purpose. And next week we journey from oi to yay, overcoming stress, positivity. So again, to conclude, we came away with today is it's important to know who we are. Based on that, to be clear about our specific individual strengths and how we can utilize that properly in our life. And through that, we will be a happier people because we're going to be doing the right thing. We're going to be fulfilling our purpose as Hashem wants us, as God wants us. And we're going to use our talents that God gave us. We don't use our talent. It's real. It's like God is giving us a gift and we're not using it. It's really not good, right? And then we are using it. We're going to be happier. You know, you see an artist when they're doing creating art. They're in their zone. They're in their realm. They're not doing that. They're not going to be happy because they're not using their given talents. So we have to ask ourselves, what is it? Sometimes we need as we said, we need a mashpia, we need a mentor to help us through. And it's never too late to rethink about things because we could, whatever age we are, we could always be rethinking these things and deciding how we're going to do better and be happier. Wishing everyone a happy week. And next week, I'd like to ask everyone how they decided to implement using more of their strengths. There was a study I think we skipped here, where every day we should try to think about a couple areas in our life that we're going to try to use our strengths and our talents better and being more focused in what we're doing. And I think that's our homework for this week. See if we can do that. Have a wonderful day. Let's conclude with the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim.
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.